Coming up next on this special sustainability edition of Arizona Horizon, an NAU professor says that the term sustainability is overused and misunderstood. We'll look at a report on forest thinning in Arizona, and we'll hear about the use of effluent as a framework for the state's water resources. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to this special sustainability edition of Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. We begin with a look at the word sustainability. In the new book, Sustainability, If It's Everything, It's Nothing, NAU professor Zachary Smith argues that the term sustainability is so broad and overused that it's lost its meaning. We talked to Professor Smith about his concerns. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Ted.
This is really interesting because when we started doing our sustainability segments, one of the questions we tried to figure out was, what does it mean? What does it mean?
Well, that's a good question. And the fact of the matter is that if you ask 10 different people, you get 10 different answers. A good example of that is if you go on the ASU's School of Sustainability webpage, at the front page it says, what is sustainability? And then it quotes a bunch of people, and they all have different perceptions of it. And so I want to talk a little bit about what we wanted sustainability to mean and what it has turned into.
Well, go ahead. What did we want it to mean?
We wanted it to mean managing resources in a way that would take care of current generations and current needs and protect future generations and their needs in whatever way that they deemed fit. What's happened is that it's turned into sustainable development and sustainable growth. And most people who study this stuff think that sustainable growth is an oxymoron. And sustainable development is pretty close, because you can have sustainable development if the development doesn't involve the continual use of resources or using up your resource base beyond what's there for future generations.
Well, could it be continuing to use those resources but not at such a fast pace?
Well, imagine this. You've got $1,000 and you've got to do some activity and you're spending $100 a day. Now, you're going to decide that you're going to be sustainable, and through sustainability you're spending $50 a day. Well, you know, you're still going to run through that $1,000. So unless you're spending zero, and in the book we talk about, we as Dr. Heather Farley, she's a professor at Georgia Coastal College, College of Coastal Georgia, we talk about rethinking sustainability and the fact that we have to have a type of sustainability that involves bringing back natural resources to where they were when we started whatever the process was, and we're not doing that. Okay. We examined government institutions, academic institutions, and the private sector across the board to find out who's doing what in the area of sustainability. And what we discovered is that nobody's doing anything that's really remotely sustainable, including academic institutions and including government.
Well, how? But I go back to the question then, sustainable development, sustainable growth. I mean, is it possible? And if it's not possible, does sustainability then mean the best we can? I know you write about how some folks say any change is good. Is any change good?
Well, I guess you could look at it that way. I mean, using $50 a day as opposed to $100 a day is better.
Yes.
So it means that it'll be the end of the earth and the end of the human race a little bit prolonged. So that's better. But I mean, we really are talking about the ability to support ourselves and live the lifestyles that we've become accustomed to. And most people know that. And we've used this term sustainability to fool ourselves into thinking that we're going to get there sooner by being sustainable. But we're not doing that, because most of what is being called sustainable now, or eco-friendly is another one. Everybody's sustainable, everybody's eco-friendly. But when you look carefully at, again, what government, academic institutions, and the private sector, corporate sector in particular, does that's eco-friendly and sustainable, you discover that it's really not at all. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous because it leads society into this and the general public, it leads them into this complacency that, oh gosh, I'm buying sustainable stuff and I'm recycling and I'm doing everything right, but in fact we're not being sustainable.
And so you want a new definition, and you want actually a new term, neo-sustainability. What does that mean?
That's correct. It means a number of things. But one of the things it means is that we have to think of, traditionally there have been three pillars of sustainability: ecology, economy, and society, and that we have to address all three of those things in order to be sustainable. What's happened in the way sustainability has been addressed now is there's been an emphasis on economy, and we have come to interpret sustainability, if we look at one of those pillars, environment's good, economy's important, society's good, but they're all equal. And that's how sustainability's been dealt with. We can't think that way. You can't have economy or society unless you've got a good environment. So everything has to come from that basis. So neo-sustainability means that we're going to think about the economy, because we want a good, healthy economy. We're going to think about environmental justice and society, because we want that as well. But it has to be in the context of what's good for the ecology and what's good for the environment. This sounds like tree hugger stuff to some people that are listening to this right now. But the fact of the matter is that if we don't have fresh air, we can't have, or good drinking water, we can't have all the other things that we want to have.
It sounds like you're focusing on improvement as opposed to maintenance. Is that in the ballpark there?
You put your finger on the most important aspect of neo-sustainability. It should not, if we continue sustainability as it's currently defined, it will ultimately lead to the destruction of natural resources. So neo-sustainability has to do what we're doing now, but it also has to be leading us to a future where we're contributing back to our resource base.
You mentioned tree huggers, and I know critics will be out there saying that this is, whatever. But it has to be realistic. It has to be something that society wants and society can grasp. Is this realistic? Can society, as we know it, can society figure this out and accept something like this?
That's a good question. This legislature is not going to do anything like that. I think that people are smart and people are willing to do what needs to be done if they're given good information in the right form. I mean, everything that I've talked about and everything that's in this book is solid science, it's well researched, and the fact of the matter is that if it were better known, I believe people would do the right thing. But they don't, because they're not getting good information. They're turning on the TV and they're thinking that this is eco-friendly, this is sustainable, when in fact it's not.
All right, sustainability, if it's everything, it's nothing. Very interesting stuff. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
ASU is teaming up with the Nature Conservancy to study ways to create sustainable, economically viable methods for thinning small diameter trees. Dan O'Neill is with ASU's Walton Sustainability Solutions Initiatives, and Patrick Graham is State Director of the Nature Conservancy in Arizona. Good to see you both here. Good to talk about this, because it feels like we've talked about this in the past with the Four Forests Initiative and these kind of. What exactly did your study look at?
Well, we were asked by the Nature Conservancy to look at the economic viability of creating an industry around small diameter wood. The forest products industry kind of died in Arizona a number of years ago, and this is about the rebirth of such an industry, but based on small diameter wood.
How small a diameter are we talking about here?
It's up to 18 inches in general.
And as far as an impact on the forest health, getting rid of these smaller trees, it's a big biggie, isn't it?
Yeah, we've lost 1 million acres, a quarter of our forests, to fire in a decade. And it's not only impacting the wildlife in the forest, but it also impacts our water supplies.
And again, these things which may not have been there in the past because low-grade fires would have knocked them out, they're all over the place.
We had historically a mature ponderosa forest might have 40 to 50 trees an acre, and today we have hundreds, up to 1,000 trees per acre.
Okay, so who wants these small trees? Because one of the problems I know from doing stories on this over the years, loggers, folks in the business, wood business, they don't want the little ones, they want the big trees. So what are we doing here?
Well, a big aspect of building a new industry cluster around small diameter wood is market development. And there's a variety of different kinds of uses of small diameter wood. And what needs to happen is building and developing more and more markets for that kind of product. One example is post and pole. That's a niche that some manufacturers or some log processors have found in the Southwest for small diameter wood. So that's one example.
And again, processed wood, sawdust, that kind of thing?
Yeah, there's a wide variety of uses, and in fact the forest products industry has always been pretty good at using the whole log, everything from the log. So it ranges from everything from the lumber that comes from the small diameter wood down to the slash that comes from the cutting process that can be used in things like energy generation processes.
And I mentioned the Forest Restoration Initiative, which we talked about a while back, and it seemed like it stalled out there in mid-flight, and now maybe it's getting some. Is this similar to that initiative? Compare and contrast for us.
Really, this is a piece of that. There was a period there where it was really uncertain whether or not this is going to be economically viable. Without industry, the Forest Initiative would not be able to move forward because government would have to pay potentially hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. So what we wanted to do is move forward and be able to verify that in fact this is can be done economically viably, and that's why we went to the School of Sustainability.
And so how is it economically viable? What has changed? Where is the market, and why aren't they doing it now?
Well, as a matter of fact, they are beginning to do it now. There are what's needed is a cluster approach where you have a variety of different uses for the log, and you can realize value, like I say, from everything from the larger log down to the slash that results from. So it's like the key is building a cluster, and there actually are a couple of clusters that we modeled that are emerging along the rim now.
And I guess the idea is, the goal is to get business in there to replace. We pay, the Forest Service pays folks that do this kind of business now, right?
Yeah, they have paid several dollars a ton, to help clear the forest. But what we saw from modeling it was that it's viable. It's possible to actually eliminate subsidy from the Forest Service.
Is it viable? Is it possible to get these small diameter trees out of there and not damage the forest with roads and these sorts of things, A, and B, not take out a bunch of big trees in the process?
Yes, I think that clearly the study supported the fact that we can do this without subsidies, and which is going to be essential because we need to. The Forest Initiative is proposing to do up to 1 million acres. It's really the largest project of its kind in the nation, and not only is it challenging from an economic perspective, but we also have to maintain the public trust in order to be able to move this forward. So there's a lot of other creative things that are going on, and maybe we can talk about that on another program. But yeah, there's no question that this can move forward. The environmental impact statement should be wrapped up this summer. And with that, the companies should be able to move forward with their investments and get this going.
Got it. Just a few seconds left. Your response so far from this?
It's a lot of interest. People. It's a hopeful kind of message, and people are intrigued by it. They've been watching their forests burn for a few years, and would like to see that come to an end.
We want to hear from you. Submit your questions, comments, and concerns via email at arizonahorizon@asu.edu.
ASU's Decision Center for a Desert City recently released a report on water reuse in central Arizona and how best to use effluent as part of the state's water sustainability plans. David White is the co-director of the Decision Center for a Desert City. Good to have you here on Arizona Horizon.
Thank you, Ted. It's great to be here.
Before we get started, what is Decision Center for a Desert City? What's that all about?
Thank you for asking. We are a unit of the Global Institute of Sustainability at ASU, so it's a research center. We're focused on the issues of water sustainability and helping to improve the decisions that are made about the future of this critical resource in our state.
And this report now is water reuse in central Arizona. Talk to us about the report and how you'd like to see it used.
Well, the report was developed by our research center, authored, I should say, by Ariana Medel, Ray Quay, and myself from DCDC, as we call it. And the focus of the report is really to continue and stimulate an ongoing dialogue in the policy community about issues critical to water sustainability for the future of our state. So there have been a number of reports from places like the Morrison Institute for Public Policy, from the governor's office, had a blue ribbon panel on water sustainability, and we're trying to continue that dialogue and push the conversation about particular critical issues, in this case the idea of water reuse.
Let's get a definition here. What does water reuse mean?
Well, there have been times in the past where wastewater, the water that is produced as a waste product from homes and businesses, was thought of as just that, a waste product to be disposed of. But increasingly, communities around the United States are seeing this as a critical resource to be reused for beneficial purposes, including industrial purposes, urban irrigation, agricultural irrigation, groundwater recharge, and other purposes. So it's seen as an important management strategy to stretch our existing water supply.
And I used the word effluent like I knew what I was talking about. I think I know what effluent is. Give me a definition.
Effluent is simply a treatment, a type of water that has been wastewater that's been treated to a particular standard. Right? So we can talk about wastewater that flows from homes and businesses, goes to wastewater treatment plants. And then that water can be treated to a variety of different qualities or levels for different types of uses. For uses on golf courses, in lakes and ponds and fountains, or it can be treated to higher level uses that involve human contact. It can also be treated to the level of indirect potable reuse, where we're adding that treated effluent to other water supplies and then eventually reusing that water for human consumption.
Now, can you use effluent for recharging aquifers? Is there a concern there? And why isn't? If there's not, why not?
Absolutely we can. And in fact, that's one of the important uses of our municipal effluent, is to use that water. We inject it into what's called the vadose zone, so we let it percolate down through the ground into the groundwater supply, and it's purified by natural processes in that way. And so it's an excellent way to take excess water that's being produced through the wastewater system and recharge those aquifers to help create a buffer or a bank of water for future use.
Is that happening right? I know golf courses and irrigation and these sorts of things, we're seeing treated water there, but are we actually seeing this groundwater recharge right now with effluent?
Yes, this is occurring right now in Arizona. It's one of the major uses of the treated effluent is for groundwater recharge. The biggest uses are for irrigated agriculture, and so treating the municipal effluent to a certain standard, and then it can be applied directly to crops such as cotton. It can also be used for urban agriculture, urban irrigation for lawns and golf courses. It can be recharged into the aquifer, or it can be used, for instance, for industrial cooling processes, such as at the Arizona Public Service Nuclear Generating Station.
I would imagine that power plant out there uses a lot of water. Is a lot of it effluent? Is a lot of it treated water?
Absolutely. In fact, they take about 80,000 acre feet of water. An acre foot is the amount of water used to flood 1 acre of land to the depth of 1 foot. Or it's about the amount of water that would be used for 2 households in a year in Arizona. 80,000 acre feet a year going to the Palo Verde Nuclear Generating Station for their cooling purposes. And in fact, they're one of the largest users of municipal effluent. They're one of the largest nuclear power plants not located on a permanent body of water. So it's an excellent example of how we can take this reused water and put it to use to support, in this case, power generation in our community.
I know that from your report, it sounded like the cost concerns are there, but they are there for an interesting reason in that competition for water kind of finds its own level, if you will, and impacts everything, doesn't it?
Absolutely. What we're seeing is we're seeing the potential for increased competition, increased cost for municipal effluent into the future. And one of the important things that we try to achieve in this report is to set up a policy dialogue, to encourage a conversation just with our raw water or surface water supplies from the Salton Verde River systems or from the Colorado River. We want people to have an open, transparent dialogue about what are the best and highest uses of this municipal effluent. Should we be using it, for instance, to support the golf course industry in North Scottsdale, right? That provides important economic benefits and tourism dollars. Should we be use it for cooling the power plant? Should we be use it for recharging the aquifer? Just like our regular water supplies, we're going to come into a place where we don't have enough water for every beneficial purpose.
And indeed, and back to the cost, if something happens, if the competition means that all of a sudden groundwater winds up cheaper than effluent, That's not a good thing.
Right. We want to, in the central Arizona area, encourage policies, behaviors, incentivize the conservation of our groundwater aquifer, and the main policy framework for the state does just that. It's one of the most progressive groundwater conservation laws in the United States. It was passed in 1980, but if it were passed today, it would be one of the most progressive groundwater conservation laws. And so we want to keep that supply as a buffer for times of drought and to mitigate and adapt to the potential impacts of climate change.
I was going to ask about drought and climate change. How much was that factored into what you guys were reporting on?
We were considering that very carefully. One of the reasons we wrote this report is that several commissions, boards, and other reports have focused on the issue of climate change, and one of the common conclusions is we must increase the amount of water reuse as a strategy to deal with potential supply deficits into the future that may occur as the result of climate change impacts or drought or population growth. So while we agree wholeheartedly with this as a primary policy goal, we want to point out some of the challenges that we need to address. Thinking about competition, thinking about costs, thinking about dealing with the increasing concern over contaminants like pharmaceuticals and other contaminants in the wastewater supply. Let's deal with those now so that we can use this important supply.
Are we dealing with those now?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a number of important organizations both at the university and in the cities and in the regulators, the Department of Water Resources, who are focused on exactly those concerns. What are the appropriate levels for things like pharmaceuticals that are making their way into that wastewater supply? We're able to detect those at a much smaller and smaller concentrations now, but we yet have developed environmental quality standards for many of those pharmaceuticals, either at the federal or state level.
Last question here, and this just involves perception. Is it a concern and is it an issue with the yuck factor, if you will? The fact that folks hear effluent, they hear wastewater, they hear treated water, and they say, get that stuff away from me.
I think one of the things that's changing over time is Arizonans are increasingly coming to grips with the idea that we should use the appropriate water quality for the appropriate use. Right? We don't need to use our potable water supply for watering our lawns, for instance, or for watering our golf courses. So I think people are really coming to grips with there are different qualities of water, including treated wastewater, that make sense to use in different purposes. Will we in Arizona reach a point where, like in California and Florida, we come to a place of direct potable reuse, where we treat that wastewater and return it directly to the drinking water plants, the water treatment plants for delivery to the households? It's possible. It's not in the immediate future, but it's possible, and I think people will come to grips with that over time.
All right. Great information. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We end our sustainability special with a video tour of a micro-dwelling exhibit. Micro-dwellings are very small homes that are often built with salvage material and are designed to have positive benefits on the environment. An exhibition of micro-dwellings was on display earlier this year at the Shemer Art Center and Museum in Phoenix. Videographer Juan Magana visited the exhibit.
The Shemer Art Center is presenting an exhibit of micro-dwellings. Each builder is creative. It's all do-it-yourself products. The way that the builders approached this exhibit was with a guideline of having to create something that was 600 square feet or less. Many of these builders have used recycled or repurposed materials. Many of them have also used found objects. As you can see, we talked about found objects. This steam shovel has been repurposed and is now a pizza oven. Every weekend he is offering pizza on site that's been baked in the oven of the Bay City steam shovel. This building was designed by Dan Dwyer, and it's all out of styrofoam. Most of them will be taking down and then transporting to another location where they will then hook up plumbing and electricity and that kind of thing. But yes, some of these buildings are designed so that you could actually live off the grid, so to speak, and live more simply. Well, this dwelling actually is called the Beetle Box, and it pays homage to a mid-century architect called Al Beetle, who lived and worked here in Phoenix. I think most of the dwellings have been done for very personal reasons. A lot of them you will see are studio spaces, or an outdoor space like the Beetle Box, to extend their indoor living, the urban living, to be more outdoors and that kind of thing. This dwelling was actually built as a studio for a landscape architect. The design that's so unique about this is that it's all meant to be indoors, outdoors. This is an exhibit of what can be done in order to sort of live off the grid.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us on this special sustainability edition of Arizona Horizon. You have a great evening.
If you have comments about Arizona Horizon, please contact us at one of the addresses on your screen. Your comments may be used on a future edition of Arizona Horizon. Thank you. Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
The Global Institute of Sustainability is the heart of ASU's sustainability initiatives, advancing research, education, and business practices for an urbanizing world. Learn more about ASU sustainability at sustainability.asu.edu/TV.